We have a strong, vibrant community. I think it generally, from a blockchain and crypto perspective, there's a lot of cases where product market fit has kind of lagged the price sentiment and the narrative. We think that that's going to change over time. Battle tested blockchain that has a real opportunity to capture market share as we see the proliferation of these use cases. And ultimately, I think a lot of the excitement comes just from the demand. So, as we talk to investors around the country, enthusiasts, stakeholders. It's one of the broadest communities, and there are a lot of diehard fans. And the sales team was just telling me that, anecdotally, advisors are constantly asked by their clients about XRP. And in some cases, it's the second most talked about asset in this community behind Bitcoin. We have a strong, vibrant.
Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Hope you guys are having a great day. That was the head of product and research at Grayscale saying that XRP is the second most talked about asset right behind Bitcoin, which is just so super bullish to hear. In today's video breakdown, we are going to go over some updated technical analysis, picking up where we left off in previous updates on both Canton and XRP. We're going to be listening to some industry-leading experts from the DTCC, Goldman Sachs, from Ripple, going over both Ripple and Canton fundamentals. If you guys enjoy these video breakdowns, do me that favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. So I thought I'd start off with that piece from Grayscale. They posted that directly on their X profile from XRP Community Day the other day. That was interesting just to give a long-term perspective considering the current market sentiment right now, where prices are down across the board. People are feeling a little bit shaky about the industry outlook right now. I personally think that it is a massive opportunity to take advantage of discounted blue chip digital assets while they last, not financial advice. With that being said, coming over here, I mentioned to you guys all the way back on February 4th, 2026, that I was paying very close attention, waiting for a break below 17 cents on Canton coin to get into some dollar cost average positions at 14,801 cents. At the 14,801 cent psychological level, I had mentioned that I'd been waiting patiently for a break below 17 cents to get in on some discounted Canton price at around the 14,801 psychological level. You guys can see here the screenshot you guys can see here in the screenshot the institutional dark pools that our software that we built over the past 4 years had identified at the 14,801. And today those levels came into fruition. Coming over here. Now, I will say this, what I'm noticing amongst the talk inside the private CYPRX Discord is that this wick only took place on MEXC. I was not able to capitalize on discounted prices at the 14,801 because it happened so fast. But you guys can see here now, looking at this update, we can see that there was a wick on MEXC directly into the 14,801 before price recovered back to where it was trading at right before the wick happened. Nonetheless, I'm always trying to give you guys accurate updates and analysis. You guys can now see how accurate these institutional levels are. These levels were identified to you guys 10 days in advance. And it wasn't because of hype. It wasn't because of, some crazy speculative analysis. It was because of real analysis in our institutional software built to read liquidity and volume the right way. Right. So hopefully you guys have been tapping in and paying very close attention. Let's just take a brief look at some updated levels because we have had some updates since the last talk. Because we have had some updates since the last TA update. Now, the only level to the upside that our software did update is the 29 cent threshold, which would be absolutely phenomenal if it did come into fruition and materialize. Nonetheless, all the targets to the downside are still the same. So with that in mind, as long as price can hold above the 14,801, even if we slightly come and trade below it, I'm still looking at some possible buying opportunities on Canton for buyers to trap sellers, become aggressive, and start to work our way back to the upside. Right now, sentiment is relatively skewed to the downside via risk off considering the tensions globally that we're seeing on the geopolitical spectrum, hawkish Federal Reserve commentary and pushback on rate cuts, the Greenland debacle, the possible, vote on Trump's tariffs via Congress in the next couple of days. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. Once all of that is behind us, I have a firm belief that some of these higher levels on Canton can materialize. For now, I'm still focused on some further discounted opportunities. So with that being said, anything below the 14,801, same thing as the previous update. I'm still paying very close attention to the 12,257 as the next area of interest if the 14,801 does break to the downside. To the upside, we need to see a sustainable break and hold above 18,194 to anticipate or get excited about any higher prices on Canton. If we can see that come into fruition, a sustainable break and hold above the 18,194, that'll open the door for a revisitation and a possible sell squeeze, taking out any stop losses that exist above the highs at around the 19,214, and will likely take us into higher territory, with the next higher dark pool coming in at the 22,582 as the next area of interest on our radar. So nothing outside of that has changed. You guys still have the same levels to the downside to be mindful of. And the only update to the upside that has materialized is now that new 29-cent threshold. We have some hurdles to overcome before we get there, though. Taking a look over on XRP's price. In a previous update, we mentioned to you guys not to get too excited on XRP if we cannot see a sustainable break and hold above $1.60. You guys can see that we came up into that $1.60 threshold. Sellers trapped buyers. They defended at where they had previously sold from, and they pushed price back down into the dark pool at $1.39 to the absolute T, where we currently trade at right now. With that being said, as long as we are above $1.36 to $1.39, I'm still bullish on XRP in the short term, that we could see a recovery start to rekindle itself back up into $1.60. If at any point in time we do end up breaking above $1.60, turning that into support, that'll reopen the door for higher prices, where $1.76 is the next institutional hurdle that we need to overcome before we can expect any higher prices on XRP. If before this next update we do supersede $1.76, next on our radar as a major hurdle that we need to overcome is $1.97. If we can overcome these three hurdles, I will start to get relatively bullish on XRP. If we can overcome these three hurdles, $1.60, $1.76, and $1.97 in the coming days ahead, then I will get optimistic that we can engulf more of the sell pressure and volume on XRP and expect higher prices. To the downside, right? As always, trying to give you guys realistic targets and analysis. If $1.39 does not hold as support and we see prices drop lower, on our radar to the downside, we still have $1.27, $1.18, and 91 cents right now as one of the lowest levels on our radar. I'm sure that we'll give you guys some updates in the short term over on X via some screenshots, via the weekly outlook. I'm sure that if you guys follow us on X, we'll make sure that you guys are following us over on X, as we've been delivering screenshots, usually anywhere between Sunday to Monday. I start the week off with the screenshot analysis, going over some things that I'm being mindful of and levels to pay attention to, especially in case any of these things change. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the realistic TA, showing you guys how accurate our analysis is here at CYPRX. We've been accurate covering both Canton and XRP. Let's continue to see what unfolds in the coming days ahead. Moving on, listening to some industry-leading experts. This is Dan Donnie from the DTCC, and this is probably one of the biggest confirmative sentences that he's ever said on a podcast. I mean, he's said it multiple times, but that we are going to operate in a multi-chain ecosystem. He specifically says one blockchain cannot handle all of the capital markets volume. And so this is just from 2 days ago. Shout out to the Validation Cloud podcast over here on YouTube. He interviewed Dan Donnie, and I want you guys to just take a second and listen to what he says, because this diminishes all the competition talk amongst retail traders where they're like, oh, my chain's better than yours. Oh, it's going to be XRPL. It's going to be Canton. It's going to be Stellar. This is an insight perspective, this is a perspective directly from an industry leading expert that pretty much says that it's not going to be one blockchain to rule them all. I love confirmation like this because it just ixnays that whole entire biased and tribalism mindset that a lot of people in this space hold on to. Take a second here and listen.
Before the end of that date. Anyway, these core services can scale out to the level of a market. Blockchain is a very powerful tool in helping it scale to the market. But here's another little trick. Blockchain cannot handle the transaction volume of all capital markets transactions. If you include all high frequency trading and dark pools, you are so far beyond the capacity of blockchain. Well, so now what? How are we going to do that? Well, there may be many blockchains. In fact, there's already many blockchains. Now you have the problem of what's the total disposition of this asset across all of these blockchains? And by the way, it's not just the sum of all of the positions on all. So I have Microsoft shares on this one. These are the right Microsoft shares, first of all, but the sum on that one and the sum on this one. If shares are moving between those blockchain ledgers via bridges, now you have to account for not double count, et cetera, et cetera. So you still need those same, even in a fully blockchain enabled world, you still need the overarching view that is, by the way, more than a blockchain in order to get the whole disposition of a security. That's actually what DTCC is focused on. We have built out a tool called LedgerScan, which is really the ledger of ledgers, which allows parties to use whatever blockchain ledgers they want. And by the way, whatever traditional accounting and ledger systems they want to get a holistic ownership as value moves in real time across all of those blockchain ledgers. So
I like that he said we built the system so that way these institutions, these organizations can use whatever blockchain they want, which just goes to show that the largest institution in the freaking world, the DTCC, is not biased towards any one blockchain. So again, I'm always just trying to bring you guys some of the realist research. This was just so super bullish for multiple different layer ones. We're going to exist in a multi-chain ecosystem in the future moving forward. I thought that you guys would enjoy that considering that we're not tribal here on the CYPRX platform. Now, I'm not going to share this particular video that was posted from Ripple 16 hours ago, how Evernorth is building the XRP yield economy. I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. Definitely worth a watch. It's Ashish Birla, previously worked at Ripple, now the obviously, of course, founder of Evernorth, the biggest XRP DAT. And he goes on to talk about XRP yield, how they're going to use XRP in the future to generate yield and whatnot, cash flow. This was just super bullish. The reason why I'm not going to play it is because there's some background music and I don't want to get a copyright strike. But I did want to bring this to everybody's attention. It was posted on Ripple's YouTube just 16 hours ago. So definitely go give it a watch if you hold XRP, you're bullish on XRP, and you want to earn yield on your XRP, because this just gives you that incentive to know, hey, look, this is coming. This is coming for retail. This is coming for institutions. This is huge. Coming over here, this was also a massive announcement. Forge Society Generale Group and Ripple, February 18th, 2026. With this integration, this partnership, SG Forge intends to increase adoption and benefit from scalability, speed, and low cost of the XRPL, a secure and decentralized layer 1 blockchain. The launch of the Euro convertible on the XRPL is being supported by Ripple's custody solution. What I like down here is it goes on to talk about and mention the successful launch of Euro convertible on the XRP ledger is a new step in reinforcing their commitment to offering next generation compliant assets that promote transparency, security, and scalability. I like that key vocabulary. They are compliant crypto assets, and that's coming directly from the CEO at Society Generale Forge. Moving over here, that was just a bullish announcement that came out just yesterday. This is in regards to Canton. This is from the Digital Asset Forum that took place from February 5th, I believe, to the 6th. Listen to this gentleman. David Olson, Chief Commercial Officer at EDX Markets, mentioned that when JP Morgan doesn't want everyone to see what they're repoing to the Fed, they're likely to use a private blockchain like Canton. Take a second and they're likely going to use a privacy-enabled blockchain like Canton. Take a second and listen.
I mean, I think it goes back to kind of what Andre said about convergence and hybridization. So you've seen some private chains used by banks like JP Morgan to move deposits around internationally, and maybe also for tokenized deposits for their clients. But you also need public clearly private blockchains weren't the solution because public blockchains have outgrown them massively. So for retail facing products, you know, if I was just to put on my prognosticator hat, it would be public blockchains for retail application because of the openness. And then when JP Morgan doesn't want to see, you know, they don't want everyone to see what they're repoing to the Fed. It'll be a private, Canton or something else like that.
So a gentleman from EDX Markets goes on to say it'll probably be Canton or something like that. I think that, again, that just positions Canton as one of the leaders in the space for the privacy ecosystem, for the privacy-enabled features that it offers to institutional investors. If we come over here, shout out to the Empire and Canton for the Quadrillions podcast. We have a gentleman, a representative from Goldman Sachs, go on to directly confirm that they are, for a fact, building on Canton. I want you guys to hear it directly from him, not me. Another net bullish overall long-term comment from a systemically important organization, or somebody that works at a systemically important organization, that just confirms that these layer ones are being embedded into traditional finance behind the scenes. Take a second here and listen.
From crypto companies and crypto founders, and the Ribbit portcos are coming into Goldman's office trying to say why Goldman should build on top of them or something. What do you see crypto companies get right and get wrong when they're coming in for an institutional pitch?
I think we've kind of touched on some of it already, to be honest. I think, for us, and, not kind of wanting to labor the point, but I think, the stuff that really kind of focus, our attention is kind of the governance, the privacy, interoperability. And I think, Yuval's talking about the tokenomics with regards to the Canton network. I think being rewarded for developing applications that we see actually have true foundational value kind of in the financial system. These are things that really kind of resonate. And so, look, obviously, naturally keep an open mind, but we've, found with the Canton network that really kind of does, kind of offer a lot of what we're focused on, which is why we've been very, keen to continue to develop all of our kind of DApp applications there.
Yeah. Are you guys are building on Canton?
Yeah.
What are you building?
Well, the digital asset platform is an application on that, and then there's things that will be developed in and around that. And
Nice.
that, as we start to think about, because really fundamentally where you want to get to is a place where if I'm a kind of repo trader or I'm issuing equities, that we're not talking about the technology. We're just kind of really reaping the benefits of the underlying technology. And I think that's the kind of key kind of place we want to get to. But you need to kind of replicate today's financial system on those rails, which, easy to say, not that easy ultimately to deliver, certainly in the short term. So for us, that, is kind of the real foundational, focus. So everything that we look at, and you can really, going back to the first comment I made, kind of way back when, there really wasn't the obvious commercial, value propositions in many of the things that we looked at. Now it's very clear where the value proposition is, and those are the areas that we're very focused on. And in part, that's because of broader adoption, the evolution of the technology. But again, it needs to kind of go back to those core tenets that we talked about. One of the other kind of things
So again, that was just cool to hear another industry-leading expert's perspective about why they're building on Canton, what they're building on Canton, and how there's going to be further developments on the Canton network in this space moving forward. This was also from just the other day, just yesterday, as a matter of fact, as of time of recording, and still only has 683 views. As always, that is all that I have. With that being said, that is all that I have for you guys today. Make sure that you all are following us over on X, as we will be giving you guys some TA updates, giving you all some insights into our institutional dark pools and deltas. Don't forget that if at any point in time you guys want access to all of these institutional insights, you guys can always head over to CYPRXtrading.com. You guys can tap in with us inside the private CYPRX Discord. You guys can see that our institutional scalper is constantly giving updates using our software for the private community members, giving overall technical analysis updates and what to expect moving forward on multiple different digital assets and asset classes, not just crypto. If you trade futures, commodities, stocks, forex, and crypto, our institutional scalper gives updates on it all. With that being said, many blessings to you guys. Do me that favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe to the platform. We do appreciate the love and the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video breakdown.